Hey guys, it's Dani. Welcome to a new Q&A episode. Today I shall be answering more of the questions you left me, and hopefully I'm gonna get to all of them. With the new YouTube settings, I'm kind of missing comments, so I need to go hunting for comments in the comment section. But anyway, I will get to them. Today's companion is the wonderful Cattleya Burana Beauty. She smells like roses. Well, roses and lilies maybe. She's one of my favorites, and she's one of the older Cattleyas that I actually have in my collection, and I have already made her tinier. I cut the rhizome twice, I think, and she's filling out again the pot. Well, it is what it is. Fully recommend this orchid. She blooms multiple times a year and you don't have to wait around for the sheath. Right. So before we start, today's video, together with this entire series, is of course sponsored by repotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchids, from potting mixes to pots, fertilizers, accessories, grow lights that I really like, and everything in between. And not only for orchids, but also for other houseplants as well, such as cacti and succulents. So I'll link you down below to their website and also to the products that I personally really like. Emphasis on the grow lights, because now I can actually grow orchids or other houseplants actually wherever I want in the house, because I don't really have windows. This is the brightest room I have, but yeah, really like those lights. So with that said, let's get to the questions, shall we? First question from Shirley. Does the rePotme Cattleya bark mix need to be soaked before repotting? That's really up to you. It doesn't need. No mixture actually really needs, except maybe for compacted sphagnum moss. If you have a brick of sphagnum moss, yeah, you need to soak it first, because that's the only way to get it uncompacted. But I know it was a trend when I started growing orchids for mixes to be pre-soaked before use. I never did that because it's kind of messy. It gets, sorry, she's in my field of view. It gets messy. The water makes the medium stick to my hands, to the gloves, whatever. It doesn't go down. I don't like to work with wet mix. So I always work with dry mixtures, pretty much no matter the mixture. Once the sphagnum moss is unbrickified, I let it dry and then I use it dry. I work with it dry and it's fine. So try to use the mixture dry. I think it's gonna work out. It definitely does not need to be soaked. If you wanted to retain more water after you repot the orchid, you put it in its pot, put water in the pot or in a decorative container, put the pot of the orchid and fill it to the top and let it soak for like 15-20 minutes, and then pull it out and put it to its pot space. Have I not had enough coffee in the morning? Maybe I did not. Right, so it does the same thing. You can soak the medium after you repot the orchid. You don't need to soak it prior to repotting and make your day worse. Next question from Mary. Should I use filtered water? The tap water in Florida is horrible. Well, I don't know what makes the tap water horrible. It could be fluoride. Yeah, that's not good for orchids. It could also be very high salts, which, yeah, that's not good for orchids either. But if you combine it with some filtered water, and when I say filtered, I mean reverse osmosis or distilled water, not like Brita filtered water or boiled water. That does nothing for the general hardness of the water, the calcium. So I'm not sure what makes the water horrible. It could be that maybe it has high nitrates, but other than that, it's good. Yeah, don't drink that, but use it on the orchids. They love nitrates. It's nitrogen. So think about what your water actually contains. If you're a little lucky, maybe it's not that horrible. I hope it's not. If it's very hard, yeah, I would either combine it or use filtered water. But I told you about the filter water. It's not depends on how you filter it. So yeah, hard water could be an issue. Fluoride in water could be an issue. I never experienced it though, but it's, from what I hear from others. You know what though? If anybody from Florida is here in the comment section, leave us a comment with how you deal with the water, or if the water is actually fine, help my viewer out, because I don't know what to say. I don't know how the water is, so I don't want to say anything dumb. So help us out in the comments. Thank you. Next comment from Tim Cook. Is that Habenaria carnea in front of the Dendrobium bigibbum? I'm looking forward to it blooming. Yes, it is. There she is. She is so pretty. yes, she does have absolutely beautiful blooms, but they really don't last long. So you have to wait for an entire year for just like a week of proper flowering. Good thing about the Carnea is the foliage. It does have very pretty foliage and it keeps you entertained throughout the year. I really like it. It has a bit of a weird bendy shape this year. Who knows? Maybe I will stake it next year, but she's healthy. She looks good. I didn't gill it. Yay, I'm happy about that. But yes, totally recommend the Carnea. Not recommending Habanerias for beginners. I did lose some Habanerias. Still looking for the Habenaria radiata. I think it is the one that looks like birds in flight. It used to be everywhere a few years ago. Now it's nowhere. But yeah, I love my Habanerias and I really do like this one for its foliage. Flowers too, but foliage more. Next question from Linda. I've been watching you for over a year. I have recently ordered and received a Tolumnia Gyrac Firm Fine Point. It was planted and growing in rocks. Is that normal? Listen, it really depends on the nursery. I've never received a Tolumnia in rocks. Most of the times the nurseries here in Europe just put them in those tiny little baskets without any type of medium at all. It's not bad. Orchids can be grown in rocks. Some people use rocks if they don't need water retention especially. And what's the difference between having a Tolumnia in rocks and a Tolumnia bare-rooted? Pretty much almost no difference, because rocks don't really retain water or anything except in their little pockets in between them. So it's absolutely okay. Would I recommend you growing Tolumnias in rocks? Maybe not if you're a home grower, because you're gonna need to maintain that medium moist for longer if you want to keep the Tolumnia well hydrated. And Tolumnias sometimes they do like their water, but it's not wrong. Depends on the nursery. Righty, next up we have a whole bunch of questions from Lollipop Corn. So I'll take them one by one. So first question. Hi Danny, could you tell me the specific cultivar of your Phalaenopsis schilleriana and also where you bought it? My schilleriana, let me just bring her because she's pretty. Look at her. Right, so my schilleriana is not a cultivar. Oh no, the tag. Can you let go, please? Right, so it just says Daglicht? What? Hold on, I'm just saying this. So Phalaenopsis schilleriana, underneath it says Daglicht. I'm trying to read like German here, or is it Dutch? It's Dutch. No. I don't think it's a cultivar name. It just says like the size or something. It comes from Klassen Orchiding in Netherlands, but I didn't buy it. Actually, somebody sent this to me a million years ago. And actually, this is a keiki of the original plant, which I don't know, had an issue and died off. But the keiki grew and she looks absolutely spectacular. And now she has one of those big stems. At some point, it will need addressing, but that point is not now. So no, it's not, or if it is a particular cultivar, I don't know what it is. It's just a normal schilleriana coming from Klassen Orchids in Netherlands. But the schilleriana is such a very popular orchid. Everybody had, I mean, all like big nurseries have it, if not all the time in stock. They restock it very, very often. Next question from Plants with... Oh, wait, it's not the same. It's not the same user, but it has kind of the same avatar. Oh, I'm just seeing now. It doesn't show me the picture. I thought it was the same picture. So this is a question from somebody else. Plants with Roger. This is random, but I wanted to post this on a recent video and hopes you'd answer here or possibly in the Q&A. Here we are. When saving phals from the clearance rack and they are rootless with only 1 or 2 leaves, when recovering, should the phal make leaves the same size as the original leaves immediately, or do they slowly make leaves that are larger and larger until they are back to normal original size? Second option, because they are lacking probably a lot of nutrition right now and they're very stressed, they will slowly build up to their normal size. So it's absolutely normal. If you know, in tutorials we say if your Phalaenopsis makes smaller leaves, something is wrong. Well, there are instances where it's absolutely normal. In recovering from root loss, rotting, things of the sorts, you will always have, most likely, smaller leaves, and that is absolutely normal. Continue to care for that orchid, because at some point it will regain all of that energy and it will come back to the original size. You will just have like maybe a moment. It's like a tree, right? If you count the circles, it's not like a tree at all. But anyway, you will have like a segment on your Phalaenopsis stems with tinier leaves, and then they go big again. Why did I say it's like a log? It's not at all like a tree log. Next question from Mari. I've always been told not to water orchids from above and to avoid wetting the crown because it can cause rot. For this reason, I always sit them on water for about 15 minutes. Is this true? Yes, it is. It is actually a good technique to use. However, you know, when you get more adjusted to growing orchids and watering orchids, and especially if you use a watering can, you could direct the water on top of the medium on the surface, just not like on top of the actual crown, just on the surface of the medium, and that's absolutely fine. Of course, there can always be a splash here and there on the stem. That's why still in the tutorials I do try to I do still mention the dunking the orchid method. I don't do it. I don't know if like more experienced orchid growers do it, but it just has to do with your experience with the orchid and just to eliminate the risk. So if you're comfortable watering your orchids like that, do it. It's not bad. It's actually good. We just don't do it because at some point we're thinking that we know better. Next question from Charlene Willis. Am I reading your name right? I love the name Charlene. I don't know why. Maybe because of the song Charlene. Is it Charlene? No, it's Darlene. What is the song name? Jolene. Okay. Never mind. Hi Danny, I heard that you put cinnamon, generally not me. You put cinnamon on a root tip, the whole root, if you put cinnamon on the root tip, the whole root will die. Is that true? Listen, I don't know because I don't want to do it. But I'll tell you my experience, because I don't know if I was like the first one at the time that told you this, or I made a video. I might find it. It's an old video at this point. It's like 12, 11 years old. So listen what I did. You know the whole drill with the cinnamon on cut wounds, whatever. I never put on roots because of the potential damage. Here's how I discovered cinnamon generally can damage soft structures. So not leaves. I used at some point cinnamon oil, and I sprayed the orchid in the hopes that it will treat spider mites. It was a spider mite infestation like a million years ago. So I treated the entire orchid. Now the orchid had a flower spike, and that flower spike was tied to a stake with a little ribbon. It was a textile ribbon, so that ribbon absorbed the spray that I did with cinnamon oil. I didn't like spray only cinnamon oil, that probably would have burned everything, but I just mixed like a little bit of cinnamon oil with water. Don't remember the ratio. So I sprayed that, and that ribbon got wet with the concoction that I made, and the next day I found that the ribbon desiccated completely the stem of the Phalaenopsis, to the point that the stem was like, it was so desiccating and burning. I don't know if desiccating or burning, it was damaging to the stem. So I came up with a video saying, listen, cinnamon might be a little bad, so be careful with like roots and stems and things of the sorts. It could have just been because it was cinnamon oil, not like the cinnamon grounds, but that's where that whole story originates from. If you want to know the lore, I created it like a million years ago. I don't know how it got perpetuated in time, but yeah, I don't know for a fact it's gonna like completely burn the entire root. I don't know. I never tried it. Maybe somebody did, but like that experience with the flower spike, it's enough for me not to play around with cinnamon. Next question from Diana. How do I feed my orchid? My one orchid has lost all her roots but still has a spike, a flower, and has new blooms forming. What do you do with her? Or what do I do with her? Thank you. Your channel has been immensely useful for my orchid journey. Let me reread that. because I don't think feeding is like your main concern right now. So if your orchid is completely rootless, what I would do is cut away the flower spikes because they are consuming energy without actually giving anything in return. Your orchid will soon deplete, and it's gonna be awful if it still has flowers consuming that energy, because most probably it will kill the orchid. So what you want right now is the orchid to conserve whatever energy it has left into prioritizing root production, which it will do naturally. That's should I call it an instinct? I don't know. Sometimes, I like biology, but I'm lacking the terms. It knows, like, the hormonal balance will be in such a way that the orchid herself will prioritize roots. You don't need to do anything other than help it conserve the energy, maybe even increase a little bit the humidity so it doesn't lose water through respiration. Orchids are very good at conserving water, especially in drought conditions. They will just shut those tomatas, but they still need to do gas exchange to a much more tiny level, but they will still do it. So in order to help, you could create a little bit of a humidity chamber, ICU chamber. Remember the days? I'll share with you a video down below that I think will help. But yeah, sadly, that flower spike needs to go. It will flower again, don't worry. Prioritize the health of the orchid and then flowers will come later. And check the video that I will link to you down below. Next question from Mikal. How can I trim the orchids and plant them into a flower pot? I'm not sure what you refer to by trimming. I would not trim anything. Judging by the question, I will assume, and I'm sorry if I'm assuming wrong, but I will assume you're a beginner. If you're a beginner, do not trim anything other than dead roots. I will share with you down below. I don't know if it's shared, but I will specifically put it for you to your question in the description. I'll put a link to repotting Phalaenopsis, and in that video you'll see me cutting away dead roots, mushy roots, all of that stuff. That's the only thing you want to trim on your orchid. Don't trim leaves. Maybe don't trim the flower spike either, or trim it. I mean, you could trim the flower spikes, but like root wise or leaf wise, never trim anything on orchids because they just don't work like other houseplants. Yeah, I think that beginner tutorial that I will share with you will tell you more, because you need to see like the images, right? So do check the description. And I do believe the last question we're gonna take for today from Mike. Nice work on your videos and they are very helpful. Thank you so much. Question: when the flowers fall off and there looks to still be a little bit of growth at the very tip of the flower spike, should you let that grow or cut it down to the next node? Whatever you feel like. If you want to let it grow and see what happens, let it. Most likely, it will continue to produce some buds. Here's the thing though, I always cut the flower spikes all the way down at the beginning of summer, because I just don't like how those flower spikes look like all bare and then a few flowers at the very end. I don't like the look. So I cut them. But if you're okay with that and if you just want to see some flowers, let them be, see what happens. Sometimes they will not continue to grow from there, so just cut it. If you see the tip is really small, really thin, most likely you won't get anything. So you can cut it at the node, or if you don't want to cut at the node, cut it down below, or it doesn't matter. Just experiment. It's the fun of growing orchids, see what happens. You never know. Personally though, once you get to have a preference when it comes to flower shows, you'll be like, oh, what is this dangly bit of flower spike? You're gonna cut it down probably. I personally do. But it's up to you. It's fun to experiment, and I hope you have fun experimenting with orchid flowers, how to maybe promote secondary branches if that's what you're into. It's always fun. And that has been the last question for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed today's Q&A session. And yeah, leave me your comments with the questions down below in the comment section of my videos, and I'll try to get to your question as soon as I can. Thank you, rePotme, for sponsoring yet another episode of this wonderful series that we all love so much. And with that said, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.